Alright, welcome everybody. Part 2, new card dump came out, not going to waste too much of your time. All I do want to add is if you guys do want to talk about some of the cards a little bit more, there is a Discord that I have a few people joining to discuss some of the cards, and we've been having some really good discussion overall. Link to that in the description below. Additionally, if you guys have anything about the cards you really want to talk about, some combos I may miss, because I do have a lot less time to take a look at these, leave that in the comments and I'd really appreciate it. Otherwise, don't forget to press the like button, and if you guys want to see a little bit more, to subscribe. I won't waste much of your time. Let's just get started with some of the cards, shall we? So first up, we have Blastenheimer, the Hunter Legendary, 6 mana 4/4, Battlecry, summon a minion from your deck. It attacks the enemy hero, then dies. So basically, good flavor, we're just gonna cannon something out and hit the enemy hero. I really like this card. I like it because the potential of whether you hit a high or low card has some beneficial value to it when you take this as a Highlander mid-range hunter card. If you end up hitting a high roll card, you do a ton of damage to the opponent's face, and this is just a lot of aggressive pressure. If you hit the low end of your deck, it's not as bad because, yeah, you're really not getting the value of the Battlecry. You're also thinning out your deck from a low-cost minion you probably don't want to draw anyways. So I think in every situation you look at this from the Highlander mid-range perspective, I think Blastenheimer has a lot of potential. I'm giving the card 4 stars. I truly think that this is going to be really good, especially if you combine it with anything with big attack or a very powerful death rattle effect, and Hunter does have a couple of those cards. Speaking of big attack and big death rattle effects, the next card we have, Darkmoon Tonk. I thought it was a tank, but it's Tonk. 7 mana 8/5 mech. Death rattle, fire 4 missiles at random enemies that deal 2 damage each. So we're kind of looking at bigger missiles, kind of like how Greater Arcane Missiles was randomly targeted 3 damage instances. This is now 4 missiles of 2 damage instances. I think this card is pretty solid, but it's still a bit slow. I really like the potential. Obviously, when you combine it with Maxima, this tank has the potential to not only slam face for 8, but deal 8 damage split around, which I think has a lot of potential for some very aggressive play, especially if the board is empty. You're looking at the Tonk doing 16 damage right away when you pull it out. That's pretty ridiculous. You can use it kind of as a board control tool, not really to actually remove things, but the threat of removing a lot of small targets because of the 2 damage instances that this thing can deal. I think the Tonk, once again, might fit in some sort of a Highlander mid-range list where we have some type of mech synergy package. We could have this in addition to Oblivitron and Ursatron, because those are still in standard. There's a little bit of mech synergy that could exist for Hunter, and they still have a lot of good aggressive pressure, which I think gives some merit for the Highlander list to include some type of mech package to make the Tonk work. I think the Tonk deserves its spot. It's a very powerful and very aggressively statted card. If you can manipulate and control the board, or even combine it with Varanus, the dragon, to set all their minions' health to 1, the Tonk can end up clearing up to 4 things, which is actually a phenomenal card and curve. I'm giving the Tonk 4 stars as well. I think the card is very strong, very powerful, has a strong effect, and when it becomes abusable, the Tonk is no joke. The Tonk is coming. Next up, we have Expendable Performers, a Demon Hunter spell. Summon 7/1/1 Illidari with Rush, and if they all die this turn, we summon 7 more. I personally think this card is a little underwhelming. I do have the one caveat, or the question to this is, it says if they all die this turn, so it needs to be asked, do we need 7 Illidari with Rush to die that are spawned from this card, or do we just need the ones that died from the space we have available? Because if we don't have all 7 spots available, we can't summon 7 to duplicate 7 more. If we have to kill all 7, meaning we need the 7 spots, I don't like this card, and I think it's bad. If you're doing some token synergy stuff, you want a couple of other cards with the 3 mana 3/1 that deals 3 damage whenever a friendly minion dies, the Cult Master type effects. We want a synergistic reason for why we're letting minions die, not just throwing a bunch of 1/1s out at it. Even something like Knife Juggler gives a reason for these to work, but the moment we play something like that, we're no longer summoning 7, and if we need all 7 to die to resummon 7 more, or basically just fill your board with 1/1 rushes, I think this card is a little bit worse. For that reason, I want to give Expendable Performers 2 stars. This card definitely opens up the potential for a lot of tokens to pop out with the Naga for Demon Hunter, as well as some other death effects from tokens. Although I think the Soul Fragment Demon Hunter and the weapon-based control style Demon Hunter that kind of exists right now is probably just going to be stronger than this. Next up, we have Renowned Performer, a 4-mana 3/3 Demon Hunter card with Rush, Death Rattle, summon 2 1/1 Performer's Assistants with Taunt. First of all, just good flavor that we have the Performer sawing the assistant in half, and now he has 2 assistants pop out. Top tier in that end. Otherwise, once again, I see this card fitting in the token style, we want things to die Demon Hunter, and I find that archetype to be a little bit weak. This does push it in a good direction because we are summoning 1/1s with Taunt, so you can proactively play this as a rush card and now have your Taunt be the things that need to die, so as long as you have those synergistic effects, the card can get somewhere. Overall, I think 4 mana for the 5/5 in stats isn't bad. You need to have the synergistic effects be a little bit more powerful than what Demon Hunter is doing right now, and I really don't think that's the case. I think the Soul Fragment package from what we've seen is stronger, but it appears for this expansion, Demon Hunter is going to go the route of some tokens. We're going to try and push the token archetype. I'm excited to see how it goes. I'm giving the Renowned Performer 2 stars again. I think the card is a little bit underwhelming, but at the same time, if we have a little bit more synergy built into it and we see more payoffs for having your tokens die, this Demon Hunter card can definitely see some play and it has a lot of potential. Next up, we have the Prize Plunderer, a 1-mana 2/1 pirate for rogue with combo, deal 1 damage to a minion for each other card you've played this turn. Really think I have a little bit of a hard time evaluating the card. My initial impression is a little bit weak because the combo effect that you have with this card for 1 mana, I feel like if you are trying to make this card work to do a lot of damage, you may as well just be running a much stronger level of removal to deal with a card than to try and combo and then play Prize Plunderer. I think the card is alright, but at the same time, if we're dealing damage and we have to deal damage to a minion, something like Eviscerate, which could go face, it's just much more efficient to do 2 mana, deal 4 damage to a minion, than to try and combo shenanigans with Rogue just so you can have a 1 mana 2/1 deal 4 to that minion. I think if Rogue gets a little bit more archetype, kind of like the counterfeit coin style stuff, where we're able to do a lot more in terms of casting spells with a lot of cheap things going on, the Prize Plunderer definitely has potential, but you're not playing this card early. The more value you get with it implies that we need to move later and later on in the game, and at that point, I personally think there are more powerful cards to pick in terms of removal or just tempo in terms of damage plus board development than Prize Plunderer. I will note, it's a 1-mana 2/1 that is dealing damage to a minion, so it is kind of everything you want to do, and it is very efficient as a 1-mana card. For that reason, I'm giving Prize Plunderer 4 stars. I absolutely like the card and its potential. I'm struggling right now to see a place that it'll fit, but I don't think that means it's necessarily bad. 1-mana 2/1 aggressively statted, it's removal plus developing a thing. That's always very powerful in Hearthstone. At a 1-mana card, it definitely feels a little bit weaker, but for the potential that 1 mana can do, it's very strong. I think you could see this as a one of, but once again, we kind of need to see the direction that it's going. If Miracle Rogue can make some type of a comeback, I think Prize Plunderer is an awesome card that could fit into that archetype. So we'll see. Next up, Hammer of the Naaru, 6-mana weapon for 3/3, battle cry, summon a 6/6 Holy Elemental with Taunt. So we have a decent weapon alongside with a big body. I think Paladin is actually pretty excited to see this weapon, not only because it's in Paladin, so the pure archetype can get a little bit more utility, but on top of that, a elemental. We now have another body that could work with N'Zoth for the tribal type effect, and I think Paladin could very easily make N'Zoth work in their archetype. The weapon is really efficient when you combine all of that into one card. I think if we kind of treat it from a little bit more of an aggressive perspective, we have a 6-mana 6/6 taunt that we're eventually going to be chipping away 9 damage over 3 turns. So all in all, this is just a very powerful mid-range-y style weapon, and I think that gives it a lot of potential and a lot of merit to become a very impactful card. I don't really see if you would want to run it in a very aggressive deck because it is a 6-mana card that does take some time to get the damage to pay off at that point. And in a control style deck, while this weapon is very good, I feel something like True Silver Champion just kind of gets the weapon out a little bit more. You get the healing, you get the removal, that's kind of what you're there for. you don't really need the 6/6 body, but that doesn't mean this is a bad card. I would also give Hammer of the Naaru 4 stars. I think this is going to be one of those weapons you just run because it's good. You don't really need a lot of synergy going behind it, but the elemental synergy with N'Zoth is important. Additionally, it's another body to chuck your Librams on in case you want to do some of that. I think there's a lot of potential for this card. I could see it being fit in. It doesn't really need synergy, it's just powerful on its own, and generally speaking, powerful on its own cards in Hearthstone, they end up seeing their day in Standard, so I'm hoping to see Hammer of the Naaru. I'm very excited, and I think it'll be really good. Next up, we have Ilganov, 4 mana 2/6 Demon Hunter Legendary, lifesteal, and your lifesteal damages the enemy hero instead of healing you. Immediately, I'm giving the card 5 stars, and here's just immediately why. Eldrazi Warblades exists in Standard. The problem with Eldrazi Warblades is when you start Twin Striking, Chaos Striking, Soul Shard Lapidary, your hero power, you just start to develop such a big lifesteal weapon that with Ilganov, you can play that and now it just becomes a double damage weapon instead of healing you. While the healing tempo is important, if you can just kill your opponent instead of doing 7 damage, you're now whipping them in the face for 14. Usually that might be enough to just close out the game entirely. So who cares about the healing when you can just burst kill them like that? I think with a couple of the other lifesteal cards like Soul Cleave, you do have potential now for a little bit of that style of removal, in which case you're dealing a lot more damage to your opponent in addition to removing stuff, and those cards start to become statted very aggressively, although I think we can't really play around the fact that we're going to have Ilganov combined with some of those early removal spells. I think Ilganov combined with a very large burst potential is very good. So I think Ilganov deserves his 5 stars. I think this is going to be a very powerful card. If they release more lifesteal stuff, everything that's lifesteal related can be a lot more aggressively statted. Additionally, even some neutral cards that are just lifesteal could be run, as they'll now become double damage dealers instead of just normal healing you, and that becomes a lot more scary for Demon Hunter to take a very aggressive stance. Next up, we have Ring Toss, a 4 mana mage spell, discover a secret and cast it, and the corrupted version is discover 2 copies instead. I think this card is pretty underwhelming, to be brutally honest. While Mage Secrets are very powerful and getting 2 of them out for 4 mana is efficient, I think that Mage Secrets in general, you want to play them with the intention of having synergy with your deck, or you are intentionally running them for a very specific reason. Most likely it's Counterspell to negate tempo, Mirror Entity to catch up on tempo, or Ice Barrier to stall. And while the Mage Secrets are powerful, I think that variance probably means this isn't worth it, and Mage generally wants to do a little bit more spell slinging than just casting some secrets and chilling there. And for that reason, Ring Toss gets 2 stars in my opinion. I think the card is good, it has some potential. I don't think Ring Toss makes a spot in any deck slot, but it's a good card to get in the Discover pool. I think it's a little bit better than the average spell because you can always end up getting 2 secrets that you didn't have before. Next up, Hunter Petting Zoo, 3 mana spell that says summon a 3/3 Strider. Repeat for each secret you control. The Striders just being 3/3 beasts for 3. I personally think this card is a little I'm not feeling too good about it. The only reason being, I think Petting Zoo is definitely a card where you want to generate the most number of Striders that you can outside of playing it. And when you play the card and you want the most Striders, that means you want to have the most secrets out. And to have the most secrets out, you're either waiting to play Petting Zoo a lot later, or you're just kind of nitpicking it with like a Phase Stalker hero power, and now you're just going to grab 1 more extra bird. In which case, 3 mana for 6/6 is pretty strong, but I think that's a very ideal scenario. And in this case, when you have a tempo-based card, and now you're trying to get more value out of a tempo card by playing an even slower version, well, now we're not really trying to play this on 3 for multiple birds. We're playing this on turn 7 or 9 when you can play 2 secrets and 3 Striders, or 3 secrets and 4 Striders. That's when you'll get a lot of value out of this card. I think I want to kind of give my reservation and say 3 stars. I think the card could actually be pretty good if you could cheat out some secrets like with Phase Stalker. Additionally, if you just have to hard play them, this gives you a little bit more of a payoff. If you have to hard play 1 secret, 5 mana, summon 2 3/3s and a random secret for Hunter, not a bad turn. And that's still a decent turn in the sense that I wouldn't mind playing that if I'm trying to develop a mid-range tempo-oriented progression for Hunter. That's why I'm giving this card 3 stars. I see the potential for it. I don't think it's any necessary card that you want to build around per se, but you might include a little bit more secret synergy just to make sure that you can get some striders out. So next up, we have another hunter spell, Don't Feed the Animals. 2 mana, give all beasts in your hand +1/+1. Corrupt, give them +2/+2 instead. I personally am very keen on saying this card is bad. I don't think that Hunter does a lot of holding beasts in your hand, let alone the Beast Hunter archetype kind of coming back. If you do end up, instead of playing Phase Stalker turn 2, you don't feed the animals, it'll be a little bit better, but once again, it's a corrupt card. We need to play something at least 3 or more to then corrupt the Don't Feed the Animals. On turn 4, you're going to Don't Feed the Animals for 2, you're going to play a 2-drop that's going to have roughly a 4 drops of stats, and maybe a 3 drops in stats, and then the rest of your hand has a little bit of a buff. So there is a lot of payoff, it does happen quickly. I just think that there's a little bit more impact with getting those bodies out earlier and chipping away that damage, because especially early on with Hunter, the more time you give your opponent to find their answers to deal with your board, the less likely you are to win and the less impactful your high pressure cards become. For that reason, Don't Feed the Animals, in my opinion, a 1-star card. I love the art, I like the potential for the card, and I think it's really interesting, although I will just say immediately that I don't think the card has a lot of potential, because this is just kind of doing something that Hunter never traditionally wants to do, and combining the fact that Hunter has so many powerful cards that aren't beasts, we're having to sacrifice that to make Don't Feed the Animals more consistent. So unless we see a lot of good Hunters beasts coming out, or just neutral beasts being shown, I don't think this really has a spot in Hunter, unfortunately. So we'll look at some more cards. I think I'm just going to pass up on this one, saying it's not really worth it. Revenant Rascal, a 3-mana 3/3 Warlock card. Battlecry, destroy a mana crystal for both players. I personally really like the card. I'm an absolute fan of disruption effects in Hearthstone. I think that they had a lot of good potential. Mojo Master Zihi was one of my favorite cards because you got to reset the mana crystals for both players. I think Revenant Rascal is very efficient because if you play it in an aggressive style deck, you could take advantage of the low amount of mana, but if your opponent's trying to find their answers of removal, you're once again delaying them for a turn while developing your own minion. I think that makes this card very impactful and very strong. I'm willing to give Revenant Rascal 4 stars because I think it has a lot of potential. The aggressive level of disruption that you can do with this thing is very impactful, and I'm a genuine fan of the fact that Warlock is getting more stuff like this. I like the level of disruption Revenant Rascal has. I think when you can combine it with something like Raise Dead and you can continue to try and shut your opponent down from developing too many mana crystals, meanwhile you're still progressing your board state, I think has a lot of potential for it. Once again, that'll do it for all the new cards. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure to leave a like, and if you want to see more of these videos, don't forget to subscribe to the content. Additionally, I have a Discord if you guys are interested in checking that out. That will be in the description below, and additionally, I do stream onto Twitch. I'm still trying to get a little bit more of a consistent schedule because I am getting better from my sickness. If you guys do want to follow up on that, I'd appreciate a good follow. That Twitch channel will also be in the description. And come on and say hey in the Discord. But until then, guys, I won't keep you here for too much longer. Let's wait for the new reveal season of cards to come out, and I'll keep you guys updated with my opinion. Peace!